Yeah, welcome to the Mitchell Port Unleashed podcast. There's a lot you got going on over there, you know?
Some stuff. And I'm very glad it's not a Monday, even though your hat says Monday.
I know, right? Shout outs to Monday over here in Toronto and things like that.
Yeah.
Let's just get into the conversation, podcasting, because I believe it's such a global phenomenon now. It's not necessarily for everyone, but let's speak about podcasting. What does podcasting mean for you?
Podcasting for me means being able to really authentically share my thoughts, but I think in a much deeper format than you are allowed to on like an Instagram post or TikTok or even LinkedIn.
No, for sure. And I think that when we look at podcasting right now, it's the art of storytelling. And I feel like yourself, you have a pretty deep story, working for Disney, things like that, all that good stuff. I did my homework, I did my research, and
Yeah.
converting it over to an entrepreneurship business where you're helping support podcasters with, all this different type of merchandise and branding and things like that. So how did you come up with that idea?
Do you mean for Chief Swag in particular?
Yeah, for Chief Swag, yeah.
Yeah. So I had that. It was actually quite strange because I had this. I was trying, number one, to find a customized microphone cover. So, for example, like your mic. And I was trying to be like, why can't I put a logo onto this for months? I had found one company that does it on Etsy. And it was so strange. And then at the beginning of 2024, in like April, I had some really devastating business stuff happen. And basically, just like wasn't working, wasn't paying my bills, was really depressed. But every day I would just wake up and I just kept being like, you know what, maybe in a way, like your one last chance is like a potential e-commerce business. And so for months I had it on my calendar, like start this company, start it somehow, never did it. And then randomly went to visit my sister in August of last year and ended up just that day making an Etsy profile for it. And I was like, screw it. I don't even know what I'm doing. I at least had figured out how to print onto it. Made an Etsy profile, flew back. She lives in Zurich. So I flew from Zurich to London, which is only like an hour and a half. Got off of the plane. And in that, I don't know if you've ever you don't probably have it in Canada, but like Venmo, whenever you get
No, we don't.
this.
They haven't regulated that for us yet.
Yeah, we've got it over in America, and I still have like all my American stuff. And I heard all of these like sounds, like cha-ching, cha-ching, as if it was like Venmo. And I remember like looking at my phone being like, oh my God. And I just started crying because I think a part of me was like, when you're an entrepreneur and you're going through the motions and it's so hard and almost like every day you want to give up. And I just was like, all right, so there's something here.
No, for sure. What
Yeah.
is what do you feel like podcasting you can impact the space of podcasting? Because I feel like you see a whole bunch of different creators that are coming in the space, some that are established, some that are just starting out and things like that. For you, like, how do you feel like you can impact that just with what you got going on and things like that?
It's an interesting question. Well, I would say number one, I think my experience in business, having the corporate side from when I was at Disney, but also having pursued entrepreneurship for years prior to that and then after, I have a really unique eye on what these corporate companies want in terms of when they're finding talent and sourcing talent, along with when they're looking to pair brands with creators. So I think that's quite unique and something I bring to my newsletter as well as the podcast. And then also, I think the guests I've been able to have on the show, mostly through like networking or just cold pitching, are very focused on career driven opportunities and helping predominantly Gen Z, which is a lot of the people who listen to this show, which I don't think, hopefully, you find on every other. I mean, there's so many podcasts out there, probably that you don't find on every podcast.
No, no, for sure. And I feel like
Yeah,
with podcasting for myself, I see so many folks want to get in here, and I say it,
so
do it for the
many.
right reasons. A lot of us still may work a 9 to 5, but if you're working that 9 to 5, you got to figure out a way to balance. And I think that's
Yeah,
where a lot of folks don't have that balance. Not everyone can step into the realm and the work of entrepreneurship because it takes time. You know what I mean? It takes time to
exactly.
map it out, look at your blind spots, the roadblocks, all that other stuff and things like that. How would you identify like roadblocks when it came down to building the business, the podcasting business?
I think think number one with podcasting is you make such low money. I mean, a lot of times I go on Reddit and I see people saying, this is how much I'm making. I mean, like point blank, I honestly make no money off my podcast. I've had months where I do, but I would say like 9 times out of 10, like I would be lying if I was like, yeah, I'm making bank on this show. I'm not, and it sucks. But I think at the end of the day, where I decide to put my energy to make money is not necessarily through the podcast because it's so hit or miss with getting sponsorships. So I try and look at like my other businesses to bring in obviously revenue. And of course, if it comes through the podcast, that's great. But I think that's the biggest struggle with podcasting is that, there's such low money involved and there's so much work.
Yeah. And I love that what you said there is because it lands for me and I do understand. A lot of folks think you can just come in here, make money hand over fist, but what are you setting up as far as parts of the business? You know what I mean? Could it be coaching? Could it be customized pop filters? Could it be consultation and things like that, right? So a lot of folks are just like, oh, I can just come in and just take it over. It's challenging. It's challenging.
Oh yeah, it's so challenging. And it's, you really have to love it, I think, because you're not getting paid for the most part. So it's like, why are you doing this? But what I think the benefit of having a podcast, especially if you're not making money, is really that, again, the brand awareness, but also the opportunity. I mean, I've been able to recruit so many people I've had from my podcast into event speakers or, purchasing product or consulting. And I think that's really like where the sweet spot comes in.
No, for sure. And it's free branding. It's a way that you can brand, market your own business and stuff like that. Because it's like, if you have a coaching business, why you're not putting that into the B-roll? We're giving value now. This could be a masterclass, but it's like, do all of that stuff, right? And I know that yourself, you help, content creators with your own branding kit. Yeah. So speak to the importance of that. Yo, guys, what's going on? I appreciate you. Thank you. Turn on all bell notifications, subscribe, like, and comment to the podcast. It's the best way to stay up to date.
When you say branding, do you mean with like the products or?
Yeah, the branding kit, because you have a branding kit that you're marketing and you're helping the entrepreneurs with.
I guess so I kind of look at my business as like Chief Swag is really like my startup that I'm bootstrapping. I mean, I have the personal brand and stuff, so I do a lot of like consulting and coaching with that. But I think with specifically like the branding with the hosts and whatnot for Chief Swag, I mean, that's so specific and so niche. I mean, a lot of the people who, it says like 50-50, it's like B2C, but also kind of B2B because we have a lot of one-off podcasters and hosts buying product. But then when I will work with a founder, they're starting something, I find a lot of the founders who I do really well with, they've either started and it hasn't really scaled, or a lot of personal brands / aspiring creators that do want to start a podcast, that do want to start making money from it. I feel like over the years, I've been able to monetize what people would say is like a smaller following, and I've done it quite well. And so I think that's really my specialty, is being able to tell you how to make money with your ideas in ways that other people maybe wouldn't be able to tell you.
No, for sure. For sure. And it goes down to building that connection, right? Because you can't build anything without connection, right? No. Speak to that from your point of view. When it comes to that connection, that one-on-one connection with a potential brand or a client or someone on Instagram, like what is that thought process for you and how do you build that into the ecosystem?
It's very important. I always like in-person discussions, certainly more than anything like virtual. I would say I'm like quite notorious for my follow-up. I mean, I'm incredibly I borderline harass people to get a reply. And I think even if someone says no to me, that's better than someone just not replying. A lot of times someone will ask me like, oh, this person didn't reply. And it's almost like people feel offended. And it's crazy because I'm like, did you follow up? And they're like, no. So I think a lot of it is the follow-up and the outreach. I've also realized on the creator side, because nowadays so many brands are in a sense getting so much harassment and outreach, you really have to personalize your pitch. So I start now on LinkedIn, like I'll look up, for example, I don't know, marketing of Lululemon, and I'll try and connect with the marketing manager and I'll send them a message. I mean, it's a longer process than just sending an email, but I find those are the bigger partnerships you can secure.
No, for sure. And there's so many different ways. Like, I think micro influencers, they're not necessarily big brands are not looking at the top of the line 50K, 100K. They're looking at the smaller establishment creators
Yeah.
because it's like we have more to offer. We're better connectors. We know how to be more human. You're not going to put a product in our face and we're going to be like, yeah, we're going to speak all
Yeah.
the listing things to it, you know what I mean, and whatnot.
Yeah, it's a different world now. I mean, when I started in 2011, it was different. And then in like 2020 and with TikTok, it's totally different. And I mean, now you do see creators who have a few thousand followers, getting paid for UGC content, which was never a term when I started my blog in 2011. So it's shifted significantly in the way of how people interact with brands and how people secure partnerships, etc.
Hmm. How would you speak to the ebbs and flows of your life as far as traveling before we hit the record button? LA, what's going on over there. By the time prior this gets, released, that hopefully should be done, but now traveling worldwide. How does that balance between entrepreneurship and personal life look like for you?
I love that question. It's a struggle sometimes. I mean, I think every day when you're an entrepreneur, or maybe just a human in general, can be quite a struggle. I find, the older I get, the harder I think it is to go through the motions of business in ways that I will say, like in my early 20s, like that hustle and that resilience. As you get older, I mean, I'm 27 now, I've been in this game for years. There are certainly just really bad days where I'm like, should I just get a job? And if so, what would I do? Like, I don't have a college degree. I'm like a self-taught business owner. And I have those more frequently nowadays. But I also think, what makes entrepreneurs so special is that they've got this strength, they've got the resilience in ways that make them incredibly resourceful. And so the balance for me, I mean, with traveling, I do travel a lot. So for me, I'm like very regimented with my routine, working out and the time zones and stuff. That I feel like I've got knocked down. But as long as I can maintain the routine with like working out and my morning reading and not being annoyed by people when I wake up, then I'm okay.
No, I love that you say that because it's like as creators or no, okay, I still work a 9 to 5, right? But it's
Yeah.
like as creators, as entrepreneurs, and making that the the transition.
Yeah.
There's a lot that we have to like. People think that we just sit here and we just don't live.
No.
Like you can be fortunate to work from home. Like myself, I work from home. It is what it is. But I accumulate all my hours back, and that was from an actual LinkedIn post. And I tell people this. I'm like, people think because you work at home, you have all the free time in the world. No, you get all your hours back.
No.
You don't got to travel
Yeah.
back and forth to work. You just
No.
stay in what it is you need to do. So when you have a break, you can just pick up your computer, maybe respond back to that email, right? Then it's like go back to work, right? Then you think about the travel time. All I got to do is wake up. So think if you got to travel 20
Yeah.
to 30 minutes to work by car, by Uber, by walking, by bus, whatever, how does that now position when you have the ability to work from home? You can now get up
Exactly.
and do everything that it is you need to do. Edit that piece of
Yeah.
content, right? Do a podcast, connect with, Alexa herself, do all that great stuff.
Yeah. Be
Yeah.
on threads, like whatever.
Right? And you know
Yeah.
what? One thing I like about you, and because I always study everything that's going on in my specific realm of podcasting, and I see you. You're popping in other people's comments. You're pitching yourself. You're
Yeah.
doing what it is you need to do. You're like, "Hi, it's me." You know what I mean? It's Alexa. It's your chief swag office.
Yeah.
Let's get to business. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I never really used threads. And then my friend was like, people go really viral on threads. I was like, so okay, let me start. And I've noticed for like Chief Swag, it's been really, I don't know what it is about threads, but there seems to be so many podcasters on there. And I see a lot of like kind of similar recycled content, but I'll just scroll through. And if someone's like, I need a podcast on business, I'm like, me, like, I can give you 10 other ones, but like, why would I not be like, I have one? So I'm like, why not, right? I don't know. I don't know if it converts, but look, with this, I mean, with I saw your post and whatnot or comment, like this is converted. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I use a lot of sports references when I talk, right? I sent a friend a voice note before prior recording this because he points something to my attention, and one of the references I say you got to put up 100 shots. So think about this. Every time you may see a post from a creator or you're trying to connect with someone, You got to
Yeah.
sometimes shoot 100 times, but that's 100 different times at different people.
Of course.
Eventually, your
Yeah.
percentage is going to go up. So some folks just sit back and they have the phone in their hand. They're like, let me just keep doom scrolling. But I want to connect with people. You're not going to connect with people if you're just doom scrolling.
No, and I
Right?
love that term, doom scrolling.
Yeah. You've
Yeah,
heard it
that's
before.
that's I feel like it rings a bell, but like something about
Mhm.
you saying it, I feel like makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that's the one thing. I mean, the minute I do that, I find myself depressed, anxious, comparison, envy, jealousy. It's insane. And the research shows like the detrimental effects. So I'm a big advocate of producing but not consuming, I think, in this day and age. Unless I'll consume a bit on Twitter, on Threads, on LinkedIn, but like try not to do that on TikTok. Try not to do it on Instagram.
When you say about consuming, right? And we look at all these apps because it kind of goes back to what you said. I was reading I was watching a post with a creator and he was doing a review of how this podcast, he's not on a podcast, he has like a vlog. And what he's
Yeah.
doing is he was in nursing and he said, I quit YouTube after he got the 10K subscribers to go back to nursing. And then
Oh,
in my back of
interesting.
my mind, I'm like, well, wait, why are you going back to the 9 to 5 if you've built a whole entire ecosystem from yourself? Because he's like, it's not worth it. You're not making the money. And it's just like, well, is it you're not making money because you're not putting the work in? Because and I know 10K subscribers on YouTube, email
Yeah.
list is one, converting them into something, you
Yeah.
can be able to build anything it is that you want to build. Even throw a 5% retention rate on top of that. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
what does that mean for you?
Well, I think it's actually quite interesting what you say about he got to 10,000 subscribers and then he went back to his job. Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. I think like if you could reverse that in the way that for me it's like I think burnout is where I would say, maybe he wanted the consistency and for me it would be like, okay, am I just too burnt out on doing this even if I had that following to like have to keep doing the grind? So I think a lot of it depends on what is it that you want out of life. And I know most people probably don't have the answer to that. I mean, I definitely don't super clearly have it, but I can tell you that I know what parts of my business that I love and I know what parts I don't. And I think if I can hone in on the ones that I love and really outsource a lot of the rest is where you can find the sweet spot to like, now can I do really what I love? Only have to do a small amount of like BS stuff and make the amount of money. But on the other side of that, I mean, it's honestly so hard to live nowadays. So, even if you're making 5 grand a month from like entrepreneurship or podcasting, depending on where you live or who you live with, that may not pay your bills. So it really just depends on like how much do you want to be a successful entrepreneur? How much are you willing to put in the work and sacrifice while being realistic, if that means still having a day job or whatnot.
No, and you speak so clear. And that's a thing that a lot of folks get tripped up on. They see the work. They want to get into what it is they want to get into, but
Yeah.
you and I both know about probably going to bed at like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning because we were
Yeah.
just putting all of these ideas on, our notes on our iPhone, or we have our whole thing mapped out, Bristol board, whatever, charts, all of these different things.
Yeah.
When the folks that come into this space, they're like, really? This is what it takes? It takes a lot of sacrifice. You got to miss birthday parties. Sometimes you got to miss weddings. Sometimes you got to
Yeah.
miss certain things. It's a part
Yeah.
of life because it's like, I want to get to where it is I want to get to. And I can't stop no matter what. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? But we still have to always give back to ourselves sometimes as well.
Yeah, and a lot of times with entrepreneurship, right, you see people when they're at the top, but you don't see the 10, 15, sometimes 20 years that they were working, before. Sometimes like lately, if I get really frustrated or I see something that I'm like, wow, this company's done so well, and like I'll go on LinkedIn and I'll look up the founder and it literally says, I'll use like Blank Street. I don't know anything about this company, but I'll use it as an example. If I went in like LinkedIn and looked up like Blank Street CEO and I scroll down and it's like Philip Bob, Blake Street started in like fucking the year 2000 and it's 2024. So that's my new thing is like when I find a company that's gone viral and I'm like, oh my God, like I want Chief Swag to be that. And I have to sometimes. And when I do is when I remember, like never once have I gone on and looked and it's like this company started a year ago. Uh, and they've amassed this amount of success. It's always like 8+ years.
So true. So true.
It's crazy.
What is, let's just say this. Say podcasting disappeared. What would be the next line of business for yourself? Would it be going back to a 9 to 5? Or would it be sticking because you have the success, you have the taste of what entrepreneurship looks like?
Number one, I've never honestly had a 9 to 5. Like when I worked at Disney, it was my own show. So I literally have been an entrepreneur since I was 12. So the 9 to 5, I don't, even when I think about it, I wouldn't even know where to start. I mean, the most money I've made and the best I've done really has been with consulting and with like PR work over the years that I've done. I don't make any money really from the podcast now. So I only look at like Chief Swag as my main source of revenue. And that's the business that I'm building. So that's kind of where I see like my brightest future is with that e-commerce business. So because I saw success with that, pretty early on, I'm able to look at like the podcast and my Instagram and TikTok as more like fun now. I don't really need to use it to be paid. Like in the past, it's like the grind to find the brand deals and whatnot. I've been so focused on the e-commerce that, I mean, if podcasting went away, I mean, I would just do the e-commerce, business.
So true. So true. And I think like you speak a lot to, because we don't know what the future holds for that one platform, TikTok. But it's like, I say to folks, because I don't want to make it too political, but so many folks are like, it goes away. What's going to happen? I built all this. Well, you built this, but you got to now understand we can't fall in love with a lot of these platforms.
No.
It's just how it is. Like, God forbid, if the internet shuts down, we both disappear.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, how do you keep into the ecosystem your community?
Yeah.
Because if the internet goes away, we go away.
Yeah. And I mean, it's so nice to hear like someone else say that, because I've been saying that since the beginning of my career. And that's why I've always done TV segments and had my website and whatnot. And only really recently have focused on TikTok. And now a lot of people, I personally don't think it's ever going to disappear. I just think a lot of it's like noise. I would just be really surprised if it did. But I do think predominantly the brands that have scaled via TikTok Shop that's where my fear is for those kind of companies. I'm like, what would they do? I don't have a brand that really works well on TikTok Shop, but I think it's more just for these creators to really realize that like, okay, if you start a podcast or if you start a TikTok and you blow up, that doesn't mean you're an entrepreneur. It doesn't mean you're a successful business owner. It means you just got lucky. The really people who scale are the people who can take that and convert it into clients, into a brand, into, an agency, etc.
I love that you just said that, because so many folks think, oh, well, guess what? I did this on TikTok. I'm now entrepreneur. It's like, well, wait. No. Like, did you create a coaching course to where now you took 10% of that following and you made them successful entrepreneurs in their business, right?
Exactly.
And I think that's where the confusion comes in. It's like, I got this viral moment, because we know all the people that have gone viral. What has happened to them after, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's so funny. I was on Social Audio and we had this conversation about that, where it's like, you can go viral all you want, but do you have something behind you, right? You go viral right now with one of the pop filters, there goes an increase in your business. Who's Alexa Curtis? Who is that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, you have something that people can purchase off of. You know what I mean? Same thing with the podcast here. It's like, oh, wait, Rory, he had this person, he had that person. It all connects. It ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And things like that.
And I think that's where the best podcasters or hosts really do is they build the community and they build the brand awareness behind themselves. So again, like if they go viral, it's because someone had already seen something or whatnot. And obviously the way to really grow a podcast is like the bigger the guests you have on, the more, traction it can get. And so that's why it's also good to not just be on, for example, TikTok, to also have a podcast, because you just never know when that particular platform could just go MIA.
For sure. Before we wind down, I always love to have the conversations with my guests. I throw the curveball question of a lifetime. It's about 1% better. But for you, 1% better. What does that mean? How do we get there from your point of view?
As a society or a person?
It could be both. It could be whatever you want it to be. Two-part. Here we go. I'm going to empower you today. Society and a person. Give it to us.
As a society, I think we need to really work on confidence. I think a main problem is that people really are lacking confidence right now, and it's stemmed by what you said, the doom scrolling. It's stemmed by like people's inability to make decisions, and it's because there's too much noise. So reduce the noise, figure out what you want to do early on, which means you need to try a lot of stuff. And then the other part of the question is what it was how the society becomes better, and what was the other part?
So, like, within ourselves as humans, entrepreneurs.
I think slow the fuck down. Like that's something I'm trying to do. And like people have been saying this to me for years, but I think there's slowing down doesn't mean like meditating more and like reading more books. I think it really means like the minute you feel overwhelmed or like it's too much, you just need to like stop, like live. And that's something I really have failed to do over the years, building businesses, some of them working, some of them not, is just like living. And it frustrates me because I think on my social media, like I am living and I do have a lot of fun, but like most of the time I'm just sitting at this laptop, throwing ideas against the wall and hoping something sticks and hoping something sticks. And you forget, like, it's not all career, it's not all business, but it feels like it is when you're running one.
No, absolutely. And that's well said, because I feel like that lands for me. I know that lands for the audience. I know that
Yeah,
lands for everyone that's paying attention. Because the thing is that sometimes that's what it is. It's throwing things at the wall. But
that's
it's
all it
throwing
is.
things at the wall. It's not like, say, it's like a Call of Duty reference. They say lay and pray. So the
Yeah,
prone position, you're shooting your gun to the enemy on Warzone. No, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about like sometimes you gotta throw stuff at the
basically.
wall and just say
Yeah.
it's gonna stick, but it's how long is it gonna take?
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. And there's no confirmation. So that's why with entrepreneurs, they have the ability to throw things at the wall with no expectation and just a gut instinct. And I think that's really cool.
No, for sure. Alexa, I appreciate you for the time that we shared
Thank
today.
you.
Mitchell
Thank
Report
you so
Unleashed
much.
podcast. Before we get out, plug all your information. Where can everyone check you out? I'm
Yes.
going to be sending you some stuff on the back end with some different creators. Yes, it's on record here. So if you do get an email or you get a DM or
Yes.
threads or maybe a Twitter from Alexa Curtis, Chief Swag herself, you know who sent you. We both
I
sent
know.
you,
I
right? So let's
do.
talk about it.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm on Instagram at Alexa_Curtis. TikTok is Alexa Curtis Unfiltered. Same for Threads and Twitter. And then if anyone does want some Chief Swag Officer product, you can use the code ChiefSwag10 and you get a discount at
Love that.
chiefswagofficer.com.
I love that. I love that. Well, I appreciate you.